I mean, you have to do it like in public.
Yeah, as I said, at the other considerations at the end of a council meeting, we could
so
like
you
share
do
our
them
favorite thought
individually.
once a quarter on the book we read.
It's gonna make
Like 10
the
minutes.
meetings a lot longer.
No, just like 10 minutes.
Nonfiction,
We don't read that garbage.
sci-fi.
I will read this. I've been looking for a new book that's not my novel. Thank you.
I kind of like that idea. I think that's fun.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. I think
Ready?
that could be really fun.
Keep us on track, good.
Good evening,
You're not invited anyway. It's fine.
and welcome to our budget session. So we are going to turn the first time over to Rich, and he will go over our general budgetary issues for this evening.
Maybe what we can do is, I don't have anything to add. If there are any questions, I can answer those, or maybe at the end.
Okay.
Comments on
Sure.
future.
All right, then we will move on to the budget workshop department presentations. Light and Power, Mark, you are up first. It's nice to see you.
I was dressed up again.
I'm a little shy coming in.
And you're supposed to say it's nice to be here.
Oh, it is nice to be here.
Is it?
Okay, this is going to be easy as long as you let it be. I'm just kidding.
I have lots of questions.
That's okay. All right. Just kind of a comparison for the light and power total budget over the last 3 years, so you can see that we're able to stay fairly flat. There's kind of a caveat to that. We need $4 million from reserves to replace transformers up at Substation 1. That is the one up at the mouth of Green Canyon, and that is one of the two substations where we have our point of common coupling with Rocky Mountain Power, and we bring power into the city. Those transformers are pushing 40 years, and so these transformers take 5 years to build, so we gotta get in line now.
Gotta get rolling.
Which is just crazy in
Yeah, it's nuts. But these are big,
capitalist economy. that
bigger than
somebody
your
can't
average
forecast.
transformer that we would normally
That's
buy.
this right here.
And that was a budgetary number from a few years ago. I hope that number's
We
still
need
good.
5 of them?
We need two.
Oh, 2, okay.
2 million apiece.
2 million apiece. I hope they're still 2 million
Yeah,
apiece.
have our fingers crossed.
So that brings our total expenses for this year's budget to just over $52 million.
So they have been ordered, or
They have not, because I don't have the money yet.
You have to approve it first.
I have to have a
Okay.
PO, yeah, I have to have
Well, you
money.
said it had been in the budget in the past, and that's why.
Well, we've made the attempt, but we just haven't wanted to, I guess, jump that $4 million out of the reserves, but we've got to do something because we're getting real late in the game, as it were. Now, the good news is we do regular oil tests on those transformers, which tells you if there's any internal problems with insulation or anything like that, and they test really good. They're in good shape. But at a 5-year lead time, we don't want to push that any longer than we have to.
Okay.
Next is just kind of a breakdown out of that $52 million budget. A large percentage of that budget is for purchase power. And last year was $31,655, and this year it's about basically the same. Yuchi and I are a little nervous that this is not enough, but we're going to give our best shot, and hopefully I don't have to come back to you for more. We always budget natural gas of about $2 million because we run our turbines quite a bit. And in addition to that, we have these 4 new generators that should be in service late fall. And I haven't upped our gas purchase because we're going to be kind of feeling our way through using those. So I've left that budget at.
Do you think they'll be more efficient?
Yes, they're more efficient. So our initial thoughts are we might run those before we would run the other ones because they're more cost effective. And that's it. Unless you have questions.
Yeah, so the numbers we have in the budget are different than the numbers you put up on the screen by a little bit. Is that just subtle differences?
I may be going off of what I submitted and not what the mayor's final approval was.
Okay, because we're at 53,538.
53,538. Oh,
Yeah.
good, more money. No, kidding. I'm not sure what the difference is there.
Probably true personnel.
Oh, yeah,
good.
my
I say
numbers don't
53
reflect
versus
any
48 though
of
is a big
the
difference.
salaries and insurance and paper performance and all that. Insurance
Okay.
doesn't have any of that in it. so.
Oh, okay. That explains $5 million. And we're looking to budget that 4 million includes both those transformers, or just?
Yeah, the last time we did a budgetary quote, they were about $2 million a piece.
And you're looking to do both of those
Yeah.
this year?
They're the same age. Well, we'll get them ordered this year.
Get them ordered, yeah.
So in this year's estimate, just as I was looking through it, I know, I'm sure there's something we've discussed in the past, but the miscellaneous revenue was 724,000 compared to 200, is that?
Where are you looking?
I'm just looking at the,
Summary.
Oh, revenues?
the revenue summary, the specifics, it's like $500,000, is that, did we, trying to remember everything we've talked about with power over the years.
I know.
Page 81.
Yeah, page 81.
So miscellaneous revenue is super hard. That's
Yeah.
why it's miscellaneous.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are one-time things that come through there. We will ratchet that up slowly as the baseline kind of stays where it should be. Some of that also depends, I believe, on sale of power back to UM's customers. I'd have to go look at what was in some of that. I'm not sure if we account for it that way or we account for it as reduction of expense.
Since I'm not at the audit committee, I don't look at these as thoroughly as I should, but that one just jumped out, that was like a drop of $500,000. So just was curious as to where.
Yeah, we will raise that over time as we see that base, but every once in a while, if you have a year, I usually look at it at 3 years plus the current.
Okay,
And so if I go back and see one where our actual was 250, even though our last year was 752, I'm not going to increase that budget until it's kind of equalized.
Equalized,
Because
okay.
miscellaneous revenue in particular,
Can be volatile.
yeah, that's,
it's miscellaneous.
I've tried to convince him that that's a good solid number, but he won't.
You know what I think it was? I think it's the check we finally received for what's that special word for the pipe up the canyon that was running into my car?
The conduit.
Oh, the insurance for the pen stock repair.
And sorry, repair.
That was a big one.
okay. All right, thank you.
500K.
Are transformers potentially impacted by tariffs?
Say again?
Are transformers potentially
Yes,
impacted by
potentially.
tariffs? Yeah.
Most of our transformers are US made, but some of the core steel, you can only find that in certain places in the world. So it could be impacted a little bit. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Knock on wood that the purchase power stays that number.
Yeah. Fingers
We're going to
crossed.
try. The extended day-ahead markets might make that challenging, but we'll see what happens. We're already seeing pressure there, so. UAMPS completed their budget year and have started their new budget year, so we're already seeing that pressure in our power bills, so. We'll have to see. In fact,
Anybody else?
Yuchi came back to me after we had submitted, she said, can I change that? Not now.
No,
Anybody else?
make it work.
Thank you, Mark. That was easy.
Now it's time to grill the chief.
Yep,
Yep.
it's your turn.
I was supposed to maybe go to Cache County to try to get the final vote on our 911 increase, but Brian Lowen took care of it. So we were talking about moving this around a little bit. So let me see if I can find it here.
Okay. Which page are we on?
I don't know.
Summary is page 3. That's the one you're looking for. Your complete is page 38 to 42, or 58 to, I'm assuming we're talking general fund, before communications center, 38 to 42.
Okay, well, it's a pleasure to be here, pleasure to talk to everybody here. We just have a 5-slide PowerPoint here. Hopefully you can read it. I'm hopefully it will be. So just a little bit of data on us. It's 120 total personnel at the Logan City Police Department. We actually have 60 sworn, but 3 are 2 retirees and 1 that went off to get a high-paying job have come back to be part-time. So we have actually 3 sworn part-time officers. Sergeant Blau, of course I'm going to forget the names, Matt Kuros, and also Johnny Gleisberg. So they've come back and they work with us on a part-time basis. It's nice to have all that experience come back and help us out. Right now, we have 17 dispatchers, although we're allotted 21. We are trying to get up to speed. We're training 3 as we speak, and we're hopeful that all 3 will make it through. As Christy explained this last time we were here to ask for the 911 increase, there's a high attrition rate in training dispatchers. So we're hopeful that these 3 we have will make it. We did lose 1 to the county. He wants to go and become a deputy. I begged him. I was like, I'll send you to the academy. I want to keep you. And he's like, no, I'm a country boy. I got to go out there. So good for you. Love the kid. 9 support staff, 3 animal control officers, 4 part-time parking officers. And of course, we have a good cadre of part-time crossing guards. So that's what our numbers represent. Here's our budget this past year for police department. On the police department side, we draw from the general fund $10,500,000 to pay for all of the things you see there. And then we also try to get grants, $150,000 in the law enforcement liquor law alcohol grant. We usually get that every year. We actually get less. So we got actually more this year. And it's because we're pretty proficient in our hunting of alcohol offenses, DUIs, that sort of thing for our size of department. So we do pretty well with all that. ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children, we get $18,000 there. There's other smaller grants, but it's actually a little more than $10,000. We'll usually pull in 20, 25, just depending on grants. So we do our best to try to mitigate our own expenses. And then on the dispatch side of things, they have an annual budget right now about $2.6 million. They are completely self-funded via cell phone residential fees, pay for all of their functions, and then of course we have contracts, and we're really up in those contracts. We, for example, UHP and USU, they pay per officer, and they generate a lot of calls for service through so they pay us to dispatch for them. This coming year, we're probably looking at about $550,000 because USU is now moving up to 25 officers from the 10 or 11 that they've traditionally had. So that costs, and then UHP also grew by 2 or 3 officers in our region. And then there's a UCA, Utah Communications Authority grant we normally get, which helps pay for a lot of our training software equipment. So that's kind of our budgeting. I put before you the annual report. We create an annual report every year. All of these stats that you'll see here, you will see in the annual report at the end. So please feel free. There's a lot more stats there. You'll see we took 22,380 calls last year in 2024, far more than anyone else. Utah State, however, is creeping up with all of their officers that they're starting to acquire. You can see the total criminal offenses, almost 2,400. Last year, obviously one person can receive multiple offenses, but that's kind of the total and then how it breaks down from there.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, with those criminal offenses, if someone's charged with multiple offenses for one crime, do they all come as individual offenses or is it one on that?
No, these are all every offense that we charged last year. So so one person could have 5 of these offenses.
In a single incident?
Yeah, that's right, exactly right. So our calls for service are holding steady. You can see we hit exactly like we did in 2021 during COVID. But the calls are a little bit more extensive now. A lot of mental health calls. You see that in our use of force reviews. A lot more, kind of takes a lot more time to do all the things that we need to do on that. But so far, holding steady.
Do you have any stats or charts on per capita type of number?
I'm not sure it's per capita. Again, most of this is drawn. You'll have all these stats in there. If you see something in there that you're still lacking or that you want to know, contact us and we'll do our very best to try to look that up as you'd like to see per capita. I don't think we have anything apparent that I'm aware of right off the top of my head, Bill.
So Chief, can you tell me, I mean, I remember when we serviced the university, and I remember when they started with 2 officers.
Yeah.
Are they only doing the university, or are they further afield than that?
Are you talking about, are we dispatching just for the?
No, I'm asking if the officers are only, do you know if their main focus is on campus?
Yes.
or do they go out
Like
into the
off-campus housing
communities?
and stuff.
They will come out and help us on occasion. They will do some, they certainly can do it anywhere in the state of Utah. We all have the same power. They focus on Utah State University, whatever calls are happening there. But to say that some of these calls, going back to it, some of these calls couldn't be on Logan City, yeah, they certainly could. And they do come down and help us quite a bit if we have a pretty big call that maybe requires more officers. But yes, some can be in Logan City, but the majority are on Utah State.
And are those numbers, do you know for sure whether that's just Logan or whether that's all campuses?
That could include the campus, the what do they call it, the campus enterprise that they have. That could include some of those, but that's a very, very small percentage of this total number. This number has grown substantially. As I said, Utah State, at least as far as dispatching is concerned, really would only generate about 300 calls a month, and now they're generating substantially more because they have more and more officers. So does it include maybe their campus in Price? Yes, but the majority of this is here on this main campus here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You can see our accidents. I thought that was interesting. We're down about 200 accidents. As we know, about 49% of those happen on Main Street, so I'm always happy to see that. Our officers are making a lot more traffic stops. In the past, we put so much emphasis on traffic citations, that my emphasis has been just go out and stop vehicles. I want you to stop everything and do whatever needs to be done, do what's appropriate out there. It's resulted in a lot more traffic stops, and I think it's resulted, I hope, in a reduction of accidents, because anytime you get stopped by a marked vehicle, it's an eye-opener, and you tend to drive a little bit more cautiously. So I'm hoping that approach works. Our DUI arrests are down a little bit, and I don't know exactly what the reason is for that, but we certainly put those officers out every weekend looking for DUIs, and so we have a lot of young officers. Sometimes it takes a little while to spin them up and train them on. It's a lot of work to do for a DUI. There's a lot to go through there. You can see dispatch traffic stops logged 43,766. That's countywide. That's all law enforcement agencies. So not just us, but we certainly have a good portion of those. And dispatch statistics there, you can see that just the averages alone, 159 average incidents entered into the computer every day, 61 average 911 calls, and then overall 310 calls every day processed. So they're very, very busy. Again, the invitation was extended. If you haven't had the chance, come on upstairs. We're happy to give you a tour at any time of our dispatch center and police department if you want. So
the records dispatched, that's for accidents?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally speaking,
it's not someone
yes.
saying my car broke down. It's usually an accident.
right, and it can be. Sometimes people will call and we'll help dispatch, but most of it are from accident type accidents. So yeah. So
And that's countywide as well, right?
yes, that's countywide. Yes. So
But the reported traffic accidents are just in Logan.
those are just local.
Okay.
Yes. So.
I was trying to figure out the 2,000 accidents.
Yeah, dispatch doesn't break it down between cities necessarily. All of their data is really total for the valley, for everybody that they dispatch with. Any of these other things are simply Logan City when you see DUIs, crimes, that sort of thing. So total arrests are down just slightly, but we hover right around 2,500 arrests every year. And that can be taking them to jail. It can also be just citations, so. Citation doesn't necessarily mean we take them to jail. It just means you have a criminal offense, take care of it with the judge later on. So for our almost last slide, so currently all of our full-time positions are filled, which is very nice, except for this morning, one of my detectives came in and accepted a job with the county to take over the school administrator position. The new law at the school that the state has passed for school security, he got that position. Good for him, bad for us. I really will miss him. I think at the police department, we've been able to keep people Here, we really have tried very diligently to create a culture, a good culture and a family atmosphere there. I really think people enjoy it. They may leave us for more money, but it isn't because it's better, I think, culturally in other places. I'm proud of that. It's not my doing, it's our staff's. We've really done our best there. With the monies that we've been afforded, and it says down there, we really have been making the most of our allotted funds. We've been able to upgrade our shooting range, the shoot house out there. We've expanded our evidence room downstairs so that we have more room. We have about 6,000 pieces of evidence that we hold at any one time that's mandated or just is in transit, but yeah, about 6,000, and we have an excellent evidence room tech to take care of that. Technology, software, and equipment grades, I think we're as equipped, we're as well equipped as any department in the state. I think we're very careful. We have 4 drones, I think 8 to 10 drone operators. Those have become
Pilots.
pilots. Yeah, exactly. They call themselves combat pilots. Yeah.
Remote
pilot. We always bring up pictures of Top Gun when we talk about these.
They call them combat pilots.
As someone who has that license, it clearly says remote pilot.
Yes. We tease them, call them combat pilots. But anyway, yeah, but those have been, we're starting to employ these on all of our events, or at least most of the bigger events. Any kind of search warrant, really accident scenes, we are starting to employ them quite a bit, and they provide, and you guys have seen this in our use of force, sometimes maybe a takedown. You've seen how incredible that footage can be and how telling that is to see the whole picture. So we've kept up on body cameras. We're getting the latest and greatest. We did purchase a rescue vehicle. It's I think it's an 05, but through some budgeting, we've been able to refurbish it. It really looks great. We basically have gotten a $350,000 vehicle for about $50,000 and about $30,000 in upgrades, and we'll show that to you at probably our next use of force review. We're waiting on one more part to get it fully up to snuff, but it's ready to go now, and it will provide ballistic protections for our officers should we have the need to rescue somebody or just provide that mobile protection, because aluminum trucks and cars are just not enough to provide that. So I want to thank the mayor for allowing us to look into that. Red dot sights on our guns. I'm going blind. I can't match up iron sights anymore, but these red dots have really improved our shooting scores, our accuracy, vehicle upgrades, new routers. We just recently switched over all of our phone and wireless services to AT&T. That'll save us $50,000 over the next 3 years. So it may not sound like a lot, but for us, that'll purchase a lot. So we have new PepLink routers. We did our due diligence. The service is the same, just cheaper, and we're very happy about getting that. We have a good wellness foundation with counselors, peer support. We have mind-based software to help officers out, and this is something I never had when I was a young officer. You just had to deal with it, but this has been invaluable to our department. Revamping and increasing training in conjunction with Ron Gonsalves back here. We are revamping how we look at these events, like the Latino Festival, all the festivals that we have on Center Street, our big events, USU Homecoming Parade. We see too often now in our world that people are driving cars through crowds, presenting threats of various types. So we are doing our due diligence. I have all of our lieutenants working right now on a better plan to protect people during these events. So it may cost us a little bit more money, may cost us a few more resources manpower-wise, but it's going to be well worth it should that terrible, awful day ever come. So as always, our concerns, the city's been awesome to us. I mean, every year we've had good raises for the last few years. Nevertheless, it's still competitive compensation to retain experienced staff is hard. Right now, I'm about to lose a corporal to UHP. He'll leave us making about $37, and he'll go make $49 an hour to chase cars for UHP. So when we compete against the state or Ogden or Brigham City, we lose. But we try to do our very best in our culture and in our caring of our employees to retain them. But we fight this compensation. I have another officer looking at Ogden City. They just got another big raise. So that's what we're up against, and that's what we fight. And then goals for the future, obviously, as the county continues to grow, as people continue to move in, we'll have to look at maybe additional officers or personnel, but right now, wage is probably the biggest thing that's a threat to us and pulling people away from us. And then, of course, I just talked about security at special events and large gatherings. That's a concern for us. So we are upping our game in that regard. So you can never make it 100% safe and perfect, but we're going to do a better job of doing that. So
Mitigate some risk.
yeah, exactly. So we love those Center Street festivals. We love the events we have, but they do raise security risks. Again, always thankful to the city. The city's been very good to me, very good to our staff. Sometimes we don't always realize it until down the road or later on, but we really have been treated well. But certainly we have always areas that we can improve on as a police department as well. So that's all I have. Do you have any questions for me? Yes.
Just curious, the database that we use for the video reviews, what item is that, or where does it fall under?
So yeah, that just falls under our body cams, and those are Vistas. Actually, they used to be WatchGuard. Now they were bought out by Motorola. So what we have is Motorola body cameras, and that's where we draw all of that video for use of force. So our general fund pays for that, and we can use alcohol funding. Remember, we get about $100,000 in grant money every year. We can buy cameras with that because there's a direct correlation to showing a DUI and the tests that we have to do. So that grant allows us to buy a lot of body cameras, and we do that. And then we'll seek out other grants too to help pay for those body cameras.
So the software, the database comes along with the actual hardware?
Yep. It's a whole kind of command central type of thing. And then we just pull those videos and prepare them to show whoever is interested. But yeah, it's been wonderful. I started that, under the former chief, we started that in 2011. We just bought what we could. But now every patrol officer is outfitted with them. We have a small supply up in investigation. So if they have to go out on the road to go interview somebody, they have a body camera. We employ them at every one of our special events, and they've been invaluable. Officers have now come to appreciate those. Before it was like, oh, big brother looking over our shoulder. Now it's exonerating them from complaints and whatnot. We love them. So.
Better clips, hopefully.
Yeah, we are working on that, but some of these officers are so small that these clips, it's hard to put them on them. So we're working on that. You'll see in the next use of force review, 2 cameras come off on the same fight. So anyway.
Any other questions?
I don't have any.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tyler?
Yeah, I'll try to straighten our 300 pages up.
Good evening, council.
Good evening, Tyler.
Tyler?
Mark set a high bar with the 3 slides, so.
So
This is the first time you've
With
done
the 3
this.
slides.
No, not really.
I was going to say, I think you keep writing slides.
First time without Issa sitting in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. This is like your first,
But done it
Solo.
a couple times with Issa here, just to.
yeah.
Could have invited him.
So if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt anytime. I'll go through both the solid waste fund, the 570 fund, and the 520 fund with our kind of budget revenue, some numbers for accounts, service, then some of our capital improvements. So this here is this budget revenue trend for the last couple of years. This is for solid waste. Some things to know. So 2024 actual versus revenue versus expense. That was the sale of garbage trucks, 21 million. That's the sale of the garbage trucks and other items we sold to waste management. These are the mayor proposed numbers. I looked up this morning. So fiscal year 25 revenue year to date is 14.1 1.4 million. So we're meeting those projections as we go. Then here's just kind of a breakdown. You can see on the left side here, this is all the collection revenue accounts we have. So curbside recycling, commercial solid waste, residential solid waste for collections. And this side's pretty much all the landfill accounts we have between the billed revenue, landfill D fees, C&D, and a little bit of pre-treatment. So one thing to take into account and remember, so last year we increased our solid waste fees. That increased the landfill fee as well as implemented a green waste tipping fee. Those were a delayed implementation. So the fiscal year 26 coming in, I think you'll see a little bit more balance with the landfill taking more than 50% of the revenue versus the collections. So this past year, it's not been quite this split, but with the rates that we passed, that should even out. For the proposed budget for this year,
Lost some lose.
here's kind of a breakdown. We have about 6.4 million there in the administration. Part of that, 3.8 million, is a proposed C&D transfer station that's budgeted this year, and about $1.5 million worth of equipment. So a couple new loaders and some garbage trucks. So that's the big portion out of the administration budget. And just some numbers. I'll run through these pretty quick. So this is the number of account service, commercial, residential, curbside green waste. We have seen a slight uptick in green waste, but it's not as substantial as I would assume it would be with the discounted rate we have and the charge for green waste at the landfill. So last year we were at $36.15 and we're at $38.99. I thought that might come up a little bit more, but it really hasn't. And then obviously from the 23 numbers to the 24 numbers, that was the separation of the county collection service.
So when people thought that it was not a true statement that we were collecting more out in the county than in the city, that slide helps refute that argument.
No, yeah, so we greatly reduced our collection staff because more of our time was spent in the county than within Logan City.
Especially when you factor in the distance, the number of pickups and the distance.
Yep.
Yeah, so we went from 8 garbage truck drivers, just the residential garbage truck drivers, down to 2. And so,
So when they say they drive in circles, they're not kidding.
yeah.
All day long.
They do drive in circles. But it's a bigger fishbowl than if you're like at the landfill and drive around the garbage all day long.
Yeah.
That's true.
So what's the bump up on the commercial though? That's a pretty significant increase.
The commercial,
But it's the same, it's about the same as it was just lower in 2021.
Yeah.
I was gonna go back and I didn't look at what into this number. I don't know how we counted this number, but the 36, if you come back from here, this number, I don't know the anomaly we had in our billing or our accounting, but that number I feel is an anomaly.
Okay, yeah, because we're up commercial over where we were before we separated too.
Yeah, but the bulk of the commercial is still in Logan City.
Yeah,
We didn't reduce our commercial staff on collections at all, really.
okay.
We still have the same amount of roll-off and front-load drivers, so. Just some tonnage numbers. We have kind of come off the COVID peak there of 109,000 tons per year, and we're kind of more maintaining the pre-COVID slight increase each year. We were at 96,000 tons landfilled last year.
And
And this
that's not just us, that's everybody?
So this includes all the waste we landfill, so this includes county waste.
Okay.
yes. Then any other out-of-county that brings waste to our
Okay.
landfills. The construction and demolition, we've still seen a steady increase in that. This is what goes into mostly the Logan landfill, and which is nearing capacity quickly.
Goodness, they were able to grind the stuff at the mall.
Right, but USU is about to take down some more of the residence buildings, which
I thought they
should
took them
generate a
all
lot of
down.
C&D waste, I'm
They
assuming.
do.
They've got
So,
two,
yeah, there's a
the
walk
ones
in.
behind, they left two up behind the business school. I think those are coming down right along 89.
Just off, yeah.
I thought they had taken it down already.
They did some, now they're doing
Had more
more.
than 3
People are still living
slides.
in them, sure.
I do have more than 3 sides. And just so on the capital improvement projects, a quick update. So the compost pad next to the wastewater treatment pad, that was funded partially by that $4 million Swiffer grant. That bid opening is this Friday. And so we should have a good idea of what that is actually going to cost. There was a $4 million match by the city. That matching funds was budgeted, I think, in fiscal year 23, or let's see, 24. It's been rolled over multiple years. So we're finally going to get to that.
Nice.
Then the proposed capital project is $3.8 million for some type of transfer station, probably more of an open, just a pad and a processing area for a C&D. So you can see if we go, that's 63,000 tons per year. In a couple of years, that will all have to be transported to North Valley landfill or direct hauled. But we can't currently do that, so we're going to have to work with the county and see if we can get some change to that conditional use permit to allow some direct haul and haul the rest on transfer. But that tonnage right there is what we're concerned with and trying to build the infrastructure in anticipation that we will be transporting that.
How many more years do you have at Logan? for C&D?
I think about 2.5. So this summer, then probably 2 more. And I'm hoping to have that C&D transfer station. We're just in the initial design, concept design of that project. So hopefully in about 2.5 years, so this summer plus 2 more, we'll have something ready to go.
We gotta figure that out pretty soon.
But if we are able to work with the county and allow direct transfer of C&D, what would the transfer station look like?
It would be smaller. So if we could, ideally, we would still, like everybody that has a roll-off on a construction site, we could transfer those, combine those with one roll-off into a larger truck. But it's like when Utah State takes down a building, they have like 14 or 15 semis coming multiple times a day. It would be, then we're just taking a full semi, then trading it onto another full semi, which it doesn't, there's no reduction in number of trips out in North Valley. So it makes sense to send those ones straight out. Then the smaller loads, the public or smaller roll-offs, we could combine and take those out. So
Okay.
if the county's unwilling to move on that, technically we'd have to take it off their semi, put it on our semi, and transport it out there, which is
Just
really
a lot of work.
a lot of work for nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like a good use of time.
Any questions on solid waste before we switch gears to wastewater?
It's a pretty picture.
Nope.
Okay, so here again, just some budget revenue numbers. We're doing well in the 520 fund. We're on track to exceed or match our revenue from 24 in this fiscal year with about $5.96 million worth of surplus revenue. In general, the operating budget breakdown for the wastewater treatment plant, by far the biggest thing we have is the debt service, that $5.2 million annually that goes to the 3 different bonds that we are paying off.
And how many years do we have left on those bonds?
How many years we have left? I think we have 27. We start about 27 or 30 years. We started
30-year
in
bond.
2000. Yeah,
But most of them are at almost no interest, right?
Very low.
low,
Yeah.
0.75.
Rich's favorite kind.
But it's a large value, so there's quite a bit of
Yeah.
interest we do pay. The bulk of the budget here for the 520 is utilities, chemicals, that's some of the magnetite, just what it takes to run the process. A biosolids handling fee is a transfer from the 520 fund to the 570 fund for handling of the solids produced by the wastewater treatment plant. Then I budgeted a small $500,000 capital improvements. That is to go towards lagoon remediation, seeing if we can get something started there with the lagoons to remediate what's left in there and make them available for future projects.
Sounds good.
And it's interesting to note, we were just emailing about this today, the utilities, it actually, the amount of power used at the wastewater treatment plant is a fair amount less than was originally
Yeah,
projected.
we're anticipating almost like 5 megawatts per day, or 5 megawatts, and we're right around 1.
Wow.
At full build out, we'll get a little more, but I think the estimate was a little high, so we should be right around maybe 2 at full build out, but it's not gonna be the 5.
That's great.
That is good.
Yeah, that's really good.
But the chemicals and the magnetite, it's things we can't get around, and they're just a large cost. Then a couple updates on the biomag expansion project and the bioreactor 4. So last year, we allocated $10 million for the bioreactor 4 project, which was 6 million gallons worth of capacity. That is tied to the EPA funding. So after, and I don't know if Issa brought this up, but after we got into the design and the engineer came back about $30 million for that bioreactor 4 for the tank and the equipment and everything associated with it, we switched gears a little bit and parceled out a small project that's just the solids handling portion of that expansion, which we've named the biomag expansion, and tied the EPA federal strings for the American Iron Steel and the BABA Buy America requirements just to that project. One of the EPA's requirements was, our initial idea was we'd build the tank and not put the equipment in it because it's for future. They said we had to have a complete and functioning project, else the strings are attached through the duration of that project. So even if we built the tank, then but the build or purchase the equipment 3 or 4 years later, the American Iron Steel strings would still be attached. So if it's a complete and functioning project, it closes off that project. So we are looking to do just some magnetite recovery drums, some WAS screens and pumps, and the associated piping. And this is going to really benefit the plant and its capacity. So it's going to increase the solids handling portion of it from about 17,000 pounds of solids a day to about 37,000.
Wow, that's huge increase.
So it's a big jump. It'll make the plant a lot more robust and easier to operate. We'll be able to, so if we need to waste or change our operations, right now it takes months to get a change because we don't have the capacity. With this added capacity, we can make, incremental steps within like a week instead of months.
Yeah.
So that being said, that project went out to bid. We opened the bids, and the bids range from 6.4 million to 6.9 million. We have not awarded the project because it has to go to the EPA for their review of the bid documents, the procurement method, and everything. So right now, we're waiting on the EPA to give us a final answer on who we can award. But that being said, taking that outside number of $7 million, that's 6.9, 5 million of that federal grant, 10 million that we allocated last year, we'll only use 2 of that. So about 8 million of that, what was allocated last year, will go back to our reserves at the end of this project.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Really nice. What do you think the EPA's timeline is going to be on approval?
They told us 4 weeks. That's what they told us last Friday.
So plan on 6.
Our bids are supposed to be valid for 60 days, so hopefully that doesn't change anything. I think last time when we went through the approval of, they've already approved half of it, which is kind of aggravating. They already approved the documents, the specifications, and the construction drawings. And so this is a second look at it, so I don't know why it's going to take that long, but that's what they gave us. So then back to the bioreactor 4 expansion. So this is the or liquid side of the treatment process, the 6 million gallons a day of capacity that we are now putting on hold. So the cost for just the tank, this was last year's estimate. So the cost for just the tank and the piles under the tank was about 19.8 million. Then the mechanical equipment, the electrical, and instrumentation was about 10.1 million. So a total of about $30 million for that facility. So these are not Rich approved numbers on the funding portion, just so you know. This is just an estimate.
Guesstimate, yeah.
So as of July 30th last year, we had about 9.4 in reserves that would be available. It looks like we'll add another about 5 million to reserves this year. Then we have $8 million that was allocated for this project originally will be now back in reserve. And maybe one more year, if we keep our revenue and expenses similar to what they've been the past couple of years, we'd have the about $29–30 million that it would take to complete the bioreactor.
Pretty close.
So we could tentatively bid that project 27, fiscal year 27 or 28.
Yeah. Pretty close.
So,
Yeah, your numbers are close.
and I think that would give us
Costs are only
adequate
gonna
time.
go up.
Yeah, they could go up.
The numbers that go up, our capacity goes down at the same time. So we're currently right around 14 to 16 million gallons a day of our 18 million gallon a day plant. So it drops off a little bit in the winter, and we maintain about close to 18 during the summer. So we have a few years depending on growth, but that's a path forward to completing bioreactor 4 without borrowing money.
Yeah.
So what's the timeline from accepting a bid to completion of the facility? Like 2029? Is it a 2-year project, a 3-year
That would
project?
probably be a 2.5, 3-year project,
Okay.
yes. So we could actually go to maybe 27 with just the first part,
Yeah.
assuming you'll accrue funds over the time. As it's listed here, like
Yeah,
the base, you
since
do
you've
the
got
tank
money already
first.
set
But
aside.
there's no restrictions on that. If we self-fund it, there's no EPA requirements. We can parcel that bid out however we see fit. It's most beneficial for us.
Is there any opportunity for state money from that, or to help with that?
From state money?
Uh-huh.
No, unless we borrow it. They're not giving away any money.
Yeah.
No, but they usually will loan it to us at a really relatively inexpensive amount, so.
That was
We could-
community
we could
impact
ask.
bond stuff again.
Logan City, we got in right at the perfect time when we did our first one. Since we have done our plant, Timpanogos has done a great big expansion. Salt Lake City's been a big expansion. Central Valley's done a huge expansion. The state revolving fund is really low.
Low. Well used.
Don't know how much money they'd be willing to give us or what their interest rate would be.
Okay. Okay.
Well used.
So that's all I have. If there's any other questions.
It's exciting we can self-fund that.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. It's really good.
Look at my question. Make sure I didn't
Have to
have
add any debt to what we're doing.
Does it say what's for dinner?
You said you're
Is that
open.
what
Kids on.
Don't lie, I can see it.
Bids are on Friday at 3 o'clock.
Stormwater fees up.
Anybody else have any questions? Thank you, Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you, Tyler.
Paul's already up and ready to go.
All brought like half his crew.
Continue with it.
Oh, it's a lot of pages.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Lot of Pages.
Here's what's up. Hold on, Sam. You're both looking snazzy. If we're going to compliment Mark, we've got to compliment you guys too.
3 slides?
Thank you. We have 3 slides to start with. No, thank you for letting us be here this evening. Just wanted to mention that I'm humbled by the fact that year after year, you save your favorite department for last. And we are
We don't make that choice. Somebody else makes that choice.
Someone else makes that choice.
Oh, Rich told me that was a council decision.
No.
He likes to throw us under the bus.
It's easy to
No,
throw us
but
under
it
the
is good to
bus.
be here. Just real quick, the way we've kind of broken this up, we'll do a kind of a high-level department overview of what Public Works is, and maybe some very high-level outlook items that I see. We'll do a review of last year's budget, just to catch up on what happened in fiscal year '25. And then after that, Sam will take some time with our capital program, because that's by far where the majority of our budget ends up, is in capital projects each year.
Sam's fault.
Yes. The Public Works Department, we are currently made up of 8 different divisions. You can see them listed there with a very snazzy 2025 APWA logo, people, purpose, and presence. That makes it look nice. We have 87 full-time employees currently in those 8 divisions. One item of note in fiscal year '25, as you're aware, we budgeted for, but not until fiscal year, in '24 and '25, then in fiscal year '25, we did add the emergency management division with a new full-time employee, Ron Gonzalez, who's here this evening, and that's gone great thus far. We're grateful for that. As Chief Simmons mentioned, he's been doing a lot of coordinating with other departments and also other entities around the valley and the state, and I have a lot of positive feedback from that change, so grateful for that. Another item that, looking forward in fiscal year '26, I plan to come back, as I said I would to council. We made some edits to our right-of-way permit fees about a year ago, and I want to come back and give a report on how that's gone, and probably make some other just little tweaks to it, lessons learned the last year with those fees.
Wow, you had a year to learn.
I learned slow.
Yeah, takes a year.
But it's been very good that way. It helped us absorb some things. For example, Google Fiber and their implementation's been a huge task.
Yeah,
And
That's
I'm
what I meant.
grateful we had those fees ahead of time implemented and ready to go for that. Some of it was in anticipation of that. Another item that I anticipate you may have heard of, especially with this last legislative session and other municipalities around the state, there's a transportation utility fee. Several cities around the state have implemented it. Legislative body is yet to come up with a state code that governs it.
oh,
But it's something that's been talked a lot about, and it's something we will start to look at to see if it's right fit or not for Logan City in this coming year, something I just want to look into. So that'll be coming as well. Generally speaking, our operations maintenance budgets are, for the most part, unchanged. You'll see some things, especially in the water and sewer, and how we organize those, that there are some changes there, but I think that's setting us up to better understand and modify water and sewer rates going forward. All right, so getting to some just high-level notes, I've talked about some of these already. In water and sewer, the biggest change there is a lot of the water and wastewater fund was managed as one fund. All of our administrative costs, a lot of our capital was in one fund that did water and sewer projects and water and sewer functions. We went through this year and split those up completely to try and say, well, how much of the manager's time is water and how much of it's sewer and those types of things. So we have a much better understanding and accounting of water versus sewer costs.
okay.
Because we've talked about before, but we're using a new software so we can really watch our water rates. Not every 5 years when we do a rate study, but dynamically. If we're looking at month by month and have a better tracking of that, and that set us up to do that.
Are we considering implementing any high usage residential rates?
Yes. I'd say in the coming, probably within 4 months or so, I hope to come back with some recommended water rate changes. And it'll be more of just how we allocate those versus increasing them. More tiers and probably greater increasing tiers as you get to the higher end usage.
Okay.
Obviously based on encouraging conservation.
Correct.
With that, you've seen we brought a transportation master plan, we brought a water master plan recently. We are currently doing the wastewater master plan, and in this fiscal year, we will start and hopefully finish a stormwater master plan. That'll be coming. You've seen the mayor's proposed salary increases. Sam will point out in one of our streets capital, we have a separate line item now identified for active transportation projects. And then the others are just some small items, offsets by increasing, decreasing one fund for another to just chase the market, I guess you could say. I've got a list up there, some Connect software that'll be used citywide for permitting, licensing, and the citizen portal where they can submit applications online, get response online. It should make that a much more efficient process for both applicants and city staff.
So Connect is also being used by community development so that you have
Correct.
a coordinated effort.
Correct.
And everybody can look and see what's going on.
That's the goal.
Thank you.
Nice.
And then our rolling stock, I just listed some of the larger items if you want to look at those. But we have other small rollover vehicles, but those are the big ones this year. Some crew trucks, a backhoe, road grader, air compressor, pothole machine, and a forklift.
What is a pothole machine?
I had the same
And I
question.
knew that was
yeah.
going to come up.
I had the
It
same
makes
question,
potholes, obviously.
I think I made that.
Or
didn't I?
it makes potholes.
Is that what makes the potholes
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
city?
Yeah, we go around and make them.
Gives you something to do later. You go fix them.
I'll tell you what, that one on First East was a good one.
Yeah.
So when
They
we
must be
fill in-
really cheap because we have lots of them.
Yeah.
No, very efficient.
Very efficient. Very efficient.
When we repair potholes, it's usually a cold mix that is put in those potholes, meaning it's cold asphalt, and it doesn't last very long. A pothole machine allows you to use hot mix asphalt, keep it hot
As you fix the
all the time, so you're doing it with a hot mix, higher quality asphalt will last a lot longer.
Is that even during the winter months you're able to?
Yeah, that's the idea, is we can do it
Nice.
year-round as well.
Awesome.
Much better way to do it.
That's really
I
great.
have this vision of this machine that goes and smashes it down and moves on to the next one.
Like a Willy Wonka kind of machine?
Dr. Seuss.
Makes cool noises too.
Sorry, Paul.
No, you're good. So those are our, again, just cap up department-wide and some outlook items. Sam will now cover our capital program, and we'll do it division by division versus account by account. They align, but we'll just go roads, water, sewer, in that fashion.
And as you say, in the proposed budget, this starts on page 106 with the capital budget. And like Paul said, I'm going to jump around more by project rather than account, but if you have a question, we can talk about it. To start, we wanted to give just kind of an update on what projects we completed in 2025 fiscal year. You see there's a list up there. It was a rough summer to drive around on our streets, but I'm impressed with how much we got done. We had some big projects get done that have been talked about in budget meetings like this for years. I added it up, and I think that $30 million is pretty accurate, if not conservative, of what we finished, like the projects we finished last year. So that doesn't mean we spent all $30 million last year. We've spent over the last couple of years, but $30 million worth of projects were completed last year, which is a testament to the budgeting we've done and the project management and getting those done. So
Was Temple View that road that's behind all those houses?
yeah, it's the subdivision just east of the LDS Temple,
Yeah.
on 3rd East. Yeah, it's actually a city-owned street back there.
I think that's so interesting.
It is interesting. We replaced the water line and the roadway in there. Yeah. Moving on, so looking forward in fiscal year 26, and again, these are not necessarily projects that might get done in fiscal year 26. This is just what we're budgeting for in 26. So some of these projects might be budgeted for over the next couple of years, saving money, and then completed in a future year.
Those sort of look like Phoenix streets.
That is the new 10th North 2nd West intersection that was completed last summer. Speaking of 10th North 6th West, we are planning for that project, and that will go to construction next summer.
And that's got the railroad.
Yep, that's got a railroad component to it.
He's gonna get closer.
And as you know, so we're working with the railroad. We're just starting right-of-way acquisition. We have gone through a couple iterations on those plans. to limit impacts to, especially residential. So we're very happy with the way we were able to minimize that, to lessen the impact. There's a fourplex there that we were able to minimize the impact significantly. So we're happy with that.
Is that the one on the north?
Property owners happy with that?
They probably didn't know what the plans were originally, so they will find out now.
Admittedly, you know, when it's on your 5-year plan, you're looking 5 years in advance. We always anticipated a complete purchase of that whole fourplex. And as Sam said, it's now a small strip take. And it took a
Just
lot
for
of,
a turning lane? Is that what they'll be?
yeah, it took a lot of coordination with a lot of entities in that intersection.
And admittedly, Light Power has helped us out a ton, relocating some of their lines that we thought maybe couldn't happen the first time. So a lot of city coordination that's been helpful as well.
This is only slightly related, but I used to live in that fourplex. So I'm glad you're not tearing it down. It's the worst
Save
3 years
memory.
of sleep of my life I've ever had. But it was good, affordable housing in college.
But it saved them a lot of money.
It did, but man, we
I'll
slept
add,
terribly.
we got a Cache County Council of Governments grant last fall for $3.2 million. You haven't seen that come across as a council action yet. We're still just working through the contract with the county, but you'll see that come through. But that will go towards this project when we're able to sign that contract.
Nice. And how much is the total project?
Somewhere in the 10-ish million.
That's a big
Yes.
project.
All of these projects, 18th North, 14th North, now 10th North, are big dollar amounts.
So are we expanding 6th West at all? We're not.
As we've done these projects, we've done portions of 6th West, as much as we can justify with the project, you know, trying to keep them in some set budget. So you're correct that eventually there needs to be a holistic look at 6th West and what that looks like. We've done pieces at the intersection.
Because it goes like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as a part of some of these projects, we've put together what 6th West could look like from end to end design. So we're designing to that idea as we do these piecemeal. So it's not, you know, they're not incompatible. They're very compatible designs. But you're right. One of these projects some year will be to do all the missing pieces.
That will be really expensive. Way more than intersections.
Canyon Road, we've put some streets budget in to go with the water line budget so that we can add to the streetscape as we finish Canyon Road next summer. And then like Paul mentioned, sidewalks and active transportation. We've had for a lot of years sidewalks line item on our capital streets budget. This year, it's always been $200,000. This year we split it, and so now we've got a sidewalks line item for $100,000 and an active transportation for $100,000.
Thank you, Mike.
I'm trying to delineate those two.
I didn't write anything down or build anything.
So I guess our intent is to use that money obviously towards alternative transportation ideas, projects that come up. So we're excited for that.
Well, the bike lane on 5th North is really, really nice.
Yeah, and
Really
that's,
nice.
so to be fair, that bike lane on 5th North came from this sidewalks budget. And so we are now just kind of calling it out separately so that it addresses what we're actually spending.
Yeah. Can we actually track how many people are riding their bicycles on there? Or?
We've had that conversation and we need to talk to Parks and get one of their cameras
That'd
out
be
there.
really cool.
That'd be very
Yeah,
cool.
it'd be nice
I
to
thought the
find out.
better part was all the people who parked when they went to church.
Yeah.
They parked in a line. It
Can I
was
ask 2 questions on this road?
Yeah.
Canyon Road, I know we've told a lot of neighbors that when we start design on that we'll put together a neighborhood committee. Are we getting close to that point yet? Is that something we need to?
Yeah. At the Wilson neighborhood meeting last week, Paul did mention kind of a rough sketch.
Sorry, I wasn't there last
Yeah.
week, but we are, okay.
I anticipate by the end of June,
Okay.
which coincides with their new steering committee elections, we'll be ready to go with that. So when they have a new steering committee, we'll have a discussion to be had.
But we're not making any functional changes to the width of that road, is that correct?
No, nothing What do you mean by functional?
They're not planning on widening the
That
asphalt.
means it's not going to be any bigger than it is today.
It's not going up in classification.
I mean, again, the transportation master plan shows it as a wider
As a
road,
collector.
but we have, said that's one thing that we kind of pledged to the Canyon Road residents is we're not going to make it that wide as it calls out.
Well, we're
in the
not
master.
making it any wider than it is, correct?
Well, in section, I mean, again, they're assessing right-of-ways right now. I mean, sorry, I should let you answer.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
It's not a standard width through now, so.
Correct. It varies so much, and if that committee or our design says the right thing is to add bike lanes to that, then it will be wider than it is today, because there's no bike lanes there today. So for me to say, no, it will not, there's some caveats. But no, we don't anticipate adding travel lanes or a turn lane through the entire corridor or anything like that.
Okay,
So
that's,
I'm hedging my bets in my answer.
no, I
The
mean,
intent of your question is no, it will not be.
well, the intent is that the road will be one lane in each direction, and if we add something, it will be active transportation or something like that. It will not be car-oriented additions. That's what I was asking.
Correct.
Thank you.
One more thing, Sam, before you push that button. I saw you getting ready.
Here, I got it.
Oh, okay. On the sidewalks, active transportation side, I know we talked a couple weeks ago about the budget of what was spent on 500 North. Is that roughly still similar? You guys haven't seen a different number as you've gone through that?
No, and admittedly, we're still getting invoices through on that, so we haven't been able to pull together.
But you
the final
expect it to still
project
be-
cost. But as we've talked, the number we talked about,
Okay,
it was under 200,000 for the bike lane outfit.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we expect it to still stay. Okay. Wonderful, thank you. Sorry, you can click your button now, or Paul can.
In our water fund, we have a water line upgrade planned on First East between Center Street and Third South, kind of by L59 Apartments, if you're familiar with that area. That's an area that we've historically just had old water lines and undersized water lines. With the development has helped us upsize portions of it that they were required to. We need to go in and finish the rest of it. That road is patchwork of patches.
No.
And so we have allocated a little bit extra so that we can repave from curb to curb through that section. It won't be a brand new road, it won't be perfect, but we're gonna try
It'll
to
be better.
do better on that asphalt patch. Main Street rebuild, as we all aware, UDOT has plans to reconstruct Main Street in the coming years. We have utilities under Main Street that need to be replaced, so we are setting aside dollars to go towards that project. Main Street doesn't have or UDOT does not have a date or a project schedule for that yet.
Or a budget.
But they're really good to work with us, and we know it's coming, and we'll be ready for it when it happens. Last one out of water, and it's actually out of water, sewer, and our street fund is concrete collars, the concrete you see around manholes and water valves. That helps limit the feeling of a pothole every time you go over it. So every year we try to put 100,000 or so towards doing those.
That's what I do.
First East
It
and
just
Center
makes
Street.
it just makes it more fun to drive. to
Yeah.
try to avoid
Yeah.
some-
When did they do First East and Center Street? Because those are
They've
just like
really
brand
made a
new.
lot of
That was
improvements.
our city cruise, yeah, we did that. Just,
Some were last year and some were last week.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like last week.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
For our sewer collection, like Paul said, we're doing better at splitting these out. We've always tracked the capital separately, but we're doing better on everything now. But the North Logan trunk line, so the main line that North Logan sewer comes through, there's a couple phases of that are remaining. So we're putting this is our last year of budgeting our funds towards that project.
Because we've done that for several years.
We've done that, and through under a lot of these intersection projects, we've always included the chunk of sewer that we need. A lot of the work is now on North Logan City to direct the work and complete the work. So ours is just cash at this point. But we're excited to see that done, and it's kind of been slow because of some right-of-way acquisition, but we're hopeful that is getting resolved in the coming weeks, and we'll be able to move forward on that project. And then 400 North, 500 to 800 West, as you know, there's a intersection project coming up in a couple of years. So this is us saving sewer funds to upgrade to install the sewer under the train tracks there.
So isn't there some of that has already been done by the developer.
Yes, yes. This is the portion to get us just under the train tracks.
Oh, that might be expensive.
Yes, it might.
I don't know where it would be.
It's just train tracks.
Yeah, it's fine. It's
Yeah.
a quick room.
It's just Union
Rip the train
Pacific.
tracks out while we're at it.
Facilities, last year we talked a lot about a public works facility. That is still a goal, it's still something we're working towards. In this past fiscal year, we've hired an architect and they are currently working on helping us determine what space is actually needed by the Public Works Department. It's been a very enlightening process, and I've been super happy with the architect firm we hired. They've involved our entire staff. We've had 2 now full-day on-site workshops where the architect comes in and is talking not just to me and Paul, but all of our crews. And there's been a lot of good that's come out of that. So we're working through that programming phase. Through the end of summer, through fall, they'll start actually working on construction drawings and final concepts. We hope, or we will, bring a final project budget to council sometime in the next fiscal year when we have an idea of what it's going to cost and we have a funding plan for it. So
Okay.
be aware of that coming up in the next 12 months. And then there's some HVAC controls that are going to happen. It's ongoing. We've been doing it for a number of years. To the City Hall building, changing the control types, make it more customizable for each room and better control for the HVAC here.
Yep, they've needed it a couple days.
Yes.
I know. We have one office with a heater and one with a fan
Yes.
blowing on some wings, but.
Any questions we can answer?
Sorry we interrupted.
I like that he said, "We can answer."
That's a good point. We also just interrupted throughout.
Yeah, so
I know.
I apologize.
we asked multiple questions while we were going.
It's easier that way.
Yeah, much better.
It's better if we don't save them because then we forget.
Yeah.
So, anybody have any questions?
It took a
still
minute
says
to-
what's
It took a
written.
minute to reconcile as I was looking at numbers with the splits, but no questions.
All good?
No, good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul and Sam.
Let's see.
Now on our agenda is general Q&A, and Rich, I don't know if you have anything you want to say in particular?
Just a couple items I'll mention and some of the time frame. Mark Montgomery, I don't think he mentioned, just electrical rates will need to be adjusted. It's just a matter of timing of when we want to do that. So anticipated it could be part of, I believe we're going to wait till after the budget to address those rates.
Does he have to do some sort of rate study in order for that to happen?
Well, we did the rate study several years ago and it recommended a certain interval.
Right.
We're
Right?
just delaying that interval and maybe we'll need to increase. Part of what we're waiting for is some information just to know how expensive everything is.
Okay.
So we'll just continue to watch that, but don't be caught off guard. That's a planned increase for the future. Along with water rates will be adjusted, but
Based on the previous rate studies.
what's that?
Recommendations based on the previous rate studies.
But the water rates will be adjusted when they add tiers
Yeah.
and change the rates based on the legislative mandate to our ability, creating the ability for us to charge more for high users,
Absolutely.
high residential users, I should
As
say.
well as we do have commercial flat charges that we have to figure out how to deal with those. It's not just water and sewer, but it's our other funds as well. We have to figure out how to deal with that because there is no definable commercial unit anymore. Used to be a good thing, but it's not.
What do you mean definable commercial unit?
You can't define what a commercial unit is. Is it an office?
Oh,
Is it a office with a bathroom?
Is it a retail?
Is it, or is that, yeah, because hoteling is something that happens with office space now. So it's very hard to define. Before it was easy because it's a flat charge per customer. Well, you can't define what a commercial customer is. We can define that for residential, and we have those definitions. We cannot do it in commercial any longer. So it's creating problems on the building side that we're going to have to resolve. We've talked about it for a while. Just know that that is coming as well. We'll probably have to unravel that in stages as we move forward.
will that come to us in pieces?
More than likely, it's going to have to, just because we have it we have those flat charges in multiple areas.
Have you got-
and
have you
we
got-
do those all the time.
Have you got other examples to like look at and kind of figure out? Nice.
Yeah, it's presenting more and more difficulties as we move forward as a city. What is a commercial unit? For instance, you have two businesses located side by side. We currently charge both a flat charge for commercial. Then one moves out and the other business occupies both. Now what do we do?
Oh, because it's, gotcha. It's one
Or-
customer.
And sometimes they're actually leasing it to somebody else. Now what do we do? I don't know. I really, and we've been saying for some time in the finance area, we have no idea what we're supposed to do. We have policy that we're following. It's just the policy is making less and less sense as we move forward because we cannot define what is a commercial unit that should receive a flat charge.
So can you transfer the revenue side of that flat charge to a usage charge?
It's more likely what we're going to have to do in specifically related to water. We do have a water meter. Specifically related to electric, we have an electric meter. We do not have a sewer meter.
Yeah, but you have
Nor
a
do
flow
we have-
rate, you have a flow, don't you have a,
But not per.
We do have those for some of the participating cities, but we don't have those for commercial.
Yeah, for buildings.
well, I'm going to say that the sewer rate, I mean, I'm the treasurer of a church, the sewer rate changes summer and winter, and I thought it was based on a flow rate.
It is, it's based on water flow.
Okay,
So again, you have a water meter, and we do calculate sewer charges off of it, but you can't define a commercial unit based on a water meter.
okay.
We have some units that are serviced by multiple water meters. We have some units that are serviced by one water meter to 15 separate units. So we have all kinds of issues that we will deal with. That's part of just rate studies that'll come forward in the future.
Do other cities meter sewage?
I don't think so.
Okay, I was just curious.
Because that's come up with some commercial people with it. They're watering, and so their water rates go, their sewer rate goes way up, but they're using it for their,
Yeah, it does.
it's not,
It goes up in the summer and down in the winter.
And those
Unless,
issues we'll have to address.
so it's not really a sewer.
unless you get a separate meter for your sprinkler system.
Right.
We do allow.
Yeah.
I know, but they're very hard to get installed. There aren't very many, there are like 2 people that will do it. So,
So
Sounds
going
like a business
forward,
opportunity.
so this concludes our budget workshops.
yes.
We have anticipated that June 17th will bring forward for adoption and public hearing elected officials' wages, department head and division manager wages, contributions to the Utah retirement system, a public hearing on enterprise fund transfers. We'll also adopt our redevelopment area budget separately. We'll also bring forward an anticipated property tax rate increase of approximately 3% for the library and the general fund. Again, our philosophy is if we raise rates little by little over time, we can avoid massive increases when catastrophe strikes. What that'll mean is it's anticipated we would tentatively adopt the council budget. We would then hold a truth and taxation hearing on August 7th if council passes that tentative budget with the property tax increase.
Okay.
So that's the kind of look forward.
So public hearing would be on the 17th, 6/17?
June 6th, yes, June 17th for the public hearing and tentative adoption of budget. And then truth and taxation hearing on August 7th, which I believe is a Thursday.
Yep.
It's a little bit different.
At 6 p.m. Yeah.
We have to hold it at 6 p.m. We cannot hold it earlier. It's the only thing that can be discussed on the agenda. It cannot include any other items whatsoever. So that's kind of why we just put it on a Thursday. The state does say we can do it with other meetings, but the state law says you can. So we're just trying to avoid any.
Just so you know, I will not be here for that meeting. Just, so hopefully everybody else will be here, so we have a quorum.
Are you going to call in, or are you?
I will be out of, no, I'll be out of the country.
You're going to be going too?
I'll be out of town.
On August 7th?
Yep.
Are you going to call in?
Just
I don't know.
I don't think I can call in.
Great,
can
I'll be
try.
the chair of a 3-person meeting.
That's the best
A
kind.
truth and taxation meeting?
Right?
Sure.
Best kind.
But Mark and
Thanks.
Ernesto, you guys are both planning to be here on
As
August
far
1st?
as I
I'm gonna plan to
know,
go.
yeah, I got nothing.
None of you can be sick.
I could
my wife
change
is
that.
telling me
Yeah,
that
I
I
could
need
change
to-
that as
I am
necessary.
flying to Portland the next day. Maybe I'll just move my flight forward.
Nope.
The only thing I have on my calendar is the truth and taxation hearing at 6
Oh, we
o'clock.
can't move it?
Because we have to go through.
Is it-
a month worth of notice.
Am I able to call in for it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will
And you
make,
definitely
I
can't call
will,
in.
I will
I'll be in
definitely call
Alaska.
in.
Okay.
Vote.
And we have
There's
some-
service in.
Because I'm driving in the car, I can figure that
Oh,
out.
perfect.
So,
Get some stars.
I will not be calling in.
Awesome.
where are you going?
I'm going to Alaska. It's an anniversary tour, anniversary trip, so.
I like Alaska.
I want to stay married
what I
another,
said.
I want to stay married another year, so if I tell my husband I have to call into a meeting, that will probably not be a wise.
He'll definitely leave you over that.
He would definitely leave me over that, amongst other things, but.
Amongst other things.
Okay, are there any other
Other
outbursts,
things.
comments?
No more
You have one.
hours.
Oh, yeah, I do have one.
But I don't have anything.
I think that there has been some discussion during this budget session about acquiring someone or doing something with PR. And I just wanted to judge what our feelings were about that, whether we think it's important to move forward, whether it's important to try something temporary.
Well,
Just-
and I do have some ideas about maybe some temporary things we can do. Again, as I sit and deal with all the departments and their needs, and, you know, we're very, very cautious about adding personnel.
Well, a conversation has been had that perhaps it could be an intern, that would be a part-time person that would be paid for out of our budget.
Yeah. Sometimes managing an intern can be more difficult.
More work than, yeah.
I mean, and
What are
it
you saying,
depends. You
Rich?
can
But
try that. I mean,
I
that's
think that-
something we could look at. Again, I would have a really hard time promoting a full-time benefited person when there are so many needs citywide. But again, as we've emailed back and forth, I think we do need to do a better job telling our story, and Mike and Ernesto have made some good suggestions, and I've had a couple of ideas that I haven't really had time to sort of flesh out and get back to the council on.
Well, what I would ask of the council members is, do you want to pursue it?
I think funding to better communicate with our citizens is something, if we have the ability to do that out of the council budget, I think that would be a good idea.
Okay. Mike, how do you feel?
Can I ask Rich's thoughts? He's over here pulling faces.
We don't want to fund a position that answers to the mayor out of the council budget. That doesn't make a lot of sense. We could reduce the council budget, increase the mayor's budget. But my recommendation to council would be set the strategic objective and then allow us to work on addressing that. And
Make it
then
work, yeah.
within the
Potentially-
budget, we can figure it out.
And potentially, new mayor could do a much better job at that than I'm currently doing.
Well, but what I'm hoping to do is during the budget process, to set the stage for that strategic direction, if that's what you'd like to call it, if everyone agrees. So I was in a public meeting asking if everyone agrees.
I would like to explore it more, whether that's a part-time position or maybe we farm that out to somebody to do that. I mean, because there's options, we don't even have to have staff to do that, so.
I mean, you can hire 1099.
Yeah, it's like, I think there's some great options.
You agree as well, Ernesto?
Yes, I agree. I think there's room to improve the coordination of all the communication.
Okay.
I think we see a lot of things going on, but maybe some coordination would be improved.
Coordination and continuity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, can we, I mean, it's not on the agenda, but can we set that strategic direction and ask the mayor and Rich to come back to us with some alternatives?
Some options.
And I'm actually working on a couple of ideas, but again, there may be better ideas than we have too. But
Well,
again, we
I think you have the
know,
best ideas.
What? I mean, we all know how much we accomplish and how much we get done because we're involved in the details. But point is well taken that we don't always communicate our story, our successes to the public. And again, communication is a challenging thing. As you know, just we try to do as much as we can, but
Well, I
unless
know
people
for
choose to
years
be
we have
engaged.
given it to someone as an extra part of their job, which isn't always the most efficient method to make communication be consistent.
Yeah, because it's
And
different
timely.
person in every department.
Well, and that's the thing, different departments. I mean, Parks and Rec has so many activities, registrations, whatever, that, they have a person that is always putting out, social media, and part of it is budget-wise, we do what's free and inexpensive. Different departments, Public Works, their public information person focuses on information, letting people know what's closed, what's whatever, and.
But I
maybe,
think that
yeah.
everything needs to go through the city website somehow. Because I feel like if you don't subscribe to Parks and Recreation, you never get any of those notices. If you don't
Yeah.
subscribe to
You do
Public
have to
Works.
opt in.
Right. And perhaps having it come through the city website would be at least a step in that direction.
Yeah.
But
Although one thing we did a couple of years ago, because when I started my mayor's newsletter in an attempt to communicate better, it's like, okay, who can we send this to? We have a lot of utility billing customers, but at that time, it was specifically, as you signed up for utilities, we said this email address will only be used specifically for utility billing information. And so we couldn't even communicate with all of our city customers. But we changed that a couple of years ago just to say for, I don't know what the exact wording is, basically city-approved emails. So after the last couple, didn't we decide we have about 8,000 new emails? So we just learned that in the last couple of weeks that we'll try and opt into kind of our mayor's newsletter list. And again, there's an unsubscribe button. If people get one and they don't want it, one click and they're gone. But at least, because I think, again, that is one way we've tried to communicate.
right, but I really feel like we should have some central location where people can go and find out what's going on in the city, period.
Well, our city website does do that. Again, you may have to go to different departments and people may not know, multiple clicks to do that. But we'll discuss that point, Thank you for that feedback.
Just a thought, I think, in my perspective, I think that the big issue for me is almost two-way communication. It is part reaching out to our residents and sharing information and sharing our story and sharing our successes, but it's also meeting people where they are to some extent so that they can share information and opinions and thoughts and concerns with us. That it can be very hard to have that two-way dialogue, and it probably always will be in a mid-sized city.
Yeah.
But I think to me, that's a lot of the goal, is just how do we communicate back and forth
And
with residents in a better way.
there was one individual who had Logan ties. He's now in Florida, but he's developing a company that is trying to sell his software to cities, a way to, like I said, more two-way communication. And, I can go back and see if I can find that email. And I didn't really pursue it because we didn't have budget allocated at the time. But anyway.
So would you like the mayor and Rich to investigate some alternatives?
Are you
I
asking me?
think that's one of the biggest complaints,
Everybody.
is people say, I didn't know, I didn't
I didn't
know.
know
It's
that-
like,
I didn't know that was
I didn't know
happening,
what was
yeah.
happening, and I think that.
And we do everything that's standard.
But you also have to remember, say on the general plan, they delivered 10,000 door hangers.
Yeah.
Almost every house in the city. And we did have a meeting here that was full. It was probably, maybe 150 people? So out of 10,000 door hangers, it's like general plan that's affecting you for the next, till 2045. And there are different ways to react to. There's a code if you don't want to come to a physical meeting, but it can be like pulling teeth to have a two-way conversation.
Yeah.
Until, again, there's that orange stake in somebody's front yard and they think, their yard's being, what's coming through, and then it triggers I should get involved here. So it's an ongoing challenge, I agree, and if we can do a better job, great, and we can look at a few options, but it is a challenge. Yeah.
And I think having an expert would be beneficial.
But I think it's a challenge we need to.
I don't do Rich's
I'm
job,
not saying that.
and I don't expect
walk on
Rich
the
to do
road
someone whose
toward.
job is communication, you know?
I do it so well.
I have my doubts. You might do some jobs well, but
Just
not that
recognizing
one.
that it is a challenge.
It is a challenge.
It's not an easy thing to do, especially with so many departments, some of them big and with multiple things that they manage. So I recognize that it is a challenge. I think, from my perspective, it's not so much saying that we're doing such a horrible job, but recognizing that there is room to improve.
Yeah.
And that maybe,
I think-
and that maybe
done well.
somebody, whether it's an intern or something else, could at least start us in the right direction as to figure out what we should do in a few months.
And some of our projects, it's like, they're 5-year projects by the time you start to, put it on a capital plan, develop a budget, plan for it for several years. It's like, okay, great, we've announced a park in the southwest area of Logan. Well, in 1 year, we may start on this section. It's a 10-year plan, so.
And people move in and out too.
Yeah.
But I think that, I think I understand the challenges, but I think that, like with Amy, what we hear a lot is we had no idea this was happening, and somehow we need to bridge that gap or attempt to bridge that gap.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I mean, sometimes it's going to be, well, I didn't choose to listen, or I didn't choose to read it, but people don't usually say that about themselves. But I think if we can feel like we're putting it out there for people to take advantage of in a few different ways, then I think we have expanded our reach toward the citizens. Whether the citizens choose to take that reach is a whole different subject. But I think that we have room to get better, so.
Great. Thanks. I appreciate that feedback, and we'll give that some thought and bring some ideas. But again, also, if you know of companies that, maybe could do that on a contract basis,
Specialized.
I would be interested in some leads that we could reach out and perhaps get some
Yeah.
bids just to see what kind of numbers we'd be talking about. So I'd appreciate any
Costs too much.
more specific information on that I could pursue.
It's something we deal with all the time in our
Yeah.
business, so, and it's so hard. It's like you've got 10 different ways to communicate with people, and everybody uses a different one. So if you don't communicate the same message in a different way, 10 different ways, you only hit 10% of the population.
And you have to do it slightly different on each
You have to
way.
do it,
can't-
everything's
each
got to be
different.
different on every platform, so.
You and I
it's
have talked about this a
It's
lot.
so difficult, yeah, it's hard as a business owner to be able to do
And-
that, and you really need someone to help with it that knows how to do it.
And you're essentially the business owner of how many departments? Right, like I can't imagine trying to manage 10 sources of information for 10 different departments. I mean, it's not easy
And
at
there are
all.
drawbacks. We can engage in social media, but then we have to notice over social media as well.
Right.
And so it complicates drastically other parts of our city if we choose to go some of those directions. So we just have to be
Okay.
a little bit careful there.
Well, I think that
There's
it
stuff.
helps,
But there are cities that do a great job at it still.
yeah.
There are.
Rich is skeptical.
So.
Rich is always
what we're
skeptical, and it's a
hearing-
good thing.
What I'm hearing budgetarily is that council is setting this as a priority. There will be things that are not funded because of it. The pie is already made. The size is already created. In order to do something different, the pie has to
Be shifted.
be shifted. Some people will get some shift. And depending on what we bring back, could be some budgetary shift, or it could be some future budget shift.
Right,
To put it bluntly, we may have to hire a PR person rather than a police officer. We may have to hire a PR person rather than a firefighter. And I just want to make sure we're all aware.
You didn't say accountant in there. I'm just saying, you know.
Accountants.
Because nobody cares if we don't hire anybody.
Yeah, nobody
So
cares.
I think one of the pieces that is important for us to understand before we divide the pie differently is what is actually happening
I was
now.
just gonna say, because we know there's people that are already currently doing
Right.
it.
And what are they doing, and what percentage of their time is spent doing that? And is it a critical part of their job, or is it just something we threw on top? And
Because I'm not saying there is, but I think there's the potential for savings of time and budget because we have multiple departments that are all doing similar things.
Right, but we're not going to like
I'm not, yeah.
having a full-time person go to 3/4 because we're
Sure.
taking away the.
And I'm not even saying we have to do it right now, but if it's, someone's doing it in 5 different departments, and we hire someone maybe part-time now or in a year or two for PR, and then as we need to hire in other departments, we remove that responsibility from someone. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think there's ways to do it.
Nonetheless, what I'm hearing is
Sure.
this is a strategic objective that we would like to see happen, and right now it's a high priority.
That improved communication with our citizenry isn't.
And we'll move that, we could move that direction over time, but I just want to make sure I'm hearing that. So that when departments come and say, I can't do this, I can say, this is a strategic objective.
Yeah, and they're not saying change it for this.
Yeah, I'm not telling you to cut a
budget that
budget
you're
in the next
looking
6
at,
weeks,
and
no.
we get that,
Yeah.
and, you know, you're saying plan to downtown. In the meantime, I think there's,
What was that part?
You want whipped cream on your pie slice, so.
And sprinkles. Figure it out, man.
I prefer
We
key
want-
lime.
you want,
But with fresh lime on it.
we want you to make magic.
It's,
I know. and
I think it's
that's
something we
that's
need to-
what I can't
that's
do.
give you, yeah. It's
It's called embezzle.
It's
I
very
want to make
common.
sure we're all saying yes, this is.
Well,
I think it's worth moving towards.
I don't think,
AI help with some of
No.
this efforts?
Absolutely.
Good.
Do we have anybody in staff that could
You.
explore that?
I mean, or AI is not going to, put together the best
No.
PR forms, but you can use AI to, you ask it to do something and then it does it.
It's repetitive.
and again, I've had some great suggestions
Yeah.
from both Ernesto and Mike, some very specific
repetitive.
things. Let me give it a little thought and get back to you.
Well,
Again,
we
things
wanted-
that wouldn't necessarily change the budget right now.
Right, and I don't, yeah.
Yeah.
But
That wasn't mine. I don't know if that was your intent, but it wasn't my intent.
so I just think that, I wanted you to know that it was not just 2 people, that everybody felt that communication was a priority that we needed to work on bettering.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing that, well, I'll send it out. Again, I think Smithfield City sends out a Friday email that they rotate between all the council members and the mayor, 3 things you should know about the city this week. So whether it's a Health Days Festival or a road closure, or, they rotate it. So that's the other thing is, do you want to have some skin in the game?
Sure.
If we assign something out to
AI write an
say,
email for me.
let's.
I can have AI write an email for me,
And
yes.
do people, again, if you do it once a week, are they like, just click unsubscribe because it's like too much?
Yeah.
But things to think about. Thank you for that feedback. It's appreciated.
Are there any other considerations anyone wants to bring forward? If not, we stand adjourned.
All right.
That was the quiet gap.
Statements.